Professionals now. Hello, everybody. We're so excited to have you all again here with us on Interesting AF or Interesting as Fuck, depending on if any kids are around you, which I hope not. Um, and today we have our episode of The Doc is In. And if you go back to the previous episode, which was how to start a conversation, we did mention that we would be talking about the documentary The Imposter. So if you haven't watched it, I would pause now, or if you want spoilers, feel free to listen and then watch. But this is the kind of the documentary we're going to talk about. And I'm just going to give a little bit of a rundown again of the documentary. It is available on, I believe, Netflix, Prime Video. It depends on where you are in the world. But it is a 2012 documentary about the 1997 case of they're calling him a confidence trickster, which I find an interesting term. Frédéric Bourdin, sorry for, being a Frenchophile over there, Francophile as they say, who pretended to be a missing boy from an American boy from Texas. And the movie, like I said, the documentary was released in 2012. It actually apparently had a very small theatrical release at the South by Southwest Festival in 2012 and grossed about $2 million. It's a short documentary, 90, 98, 99 minutes, but really takes you through the story of this, as they say, confidence trickster, Frédéric, who pretends to be this missing boy from Texas, even though he looked nothing like him, which is nothing like him. He did not have any characteristics. And the thing that I went back and saw was that Nicholas even had tattoos, like homegrown tattoos that Frederick didn't have, right? So, and I think this ties very nicely into sometimes the amount of suspicion that comes when interacting with people, when talking to people. They don't really know you. How are they supposed to believe anything you say? And I thought, that's how we'll start. Now, over to you, Elaine. You're our documentary specialist, our in-house specialist, and we'd love to hear, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Oh, yeah. Also, we have beverages, adult beverages.
We do. I don't know why I'm holding up. No one's going to see this.
Nope, it's just for posterity.
It's strictly audio. We do. And I guess I'll start. I'm drinking a Viognier from Texas because that is the setting of this. And what's fun about this is a friend of mine who I knew from high school. We didn't go to the same high school, but we knew each other. I met her when I was in high school. She lived in Texas until literally about a month ago. And during COVID, we reconnected over our love of wine. And so I sent her a Virginia wine package. She sent me a Texas one. And I have not found a way or a reason to drink this yet. So here we are.
And I have a very boring Bailey's. Because as I mentioned, and I'll probably talk about this because I read a lot of books, and apparently this year is my year of romance novels. I don't know why. It's romance novels and shipwrecks. And I'm drinking Bailey's, which is a classic.
That sounds like a perfect nightcap.
It is a nightcap. It is perfect, and especially after 2 kids and 2 weeks of fevers. But yeah, speaking of which, I think, and we were talking about this before, about the second time around watching this documentary, how hard it was. Yeah. Because we both have children now. I think we both watched it originally when we didn't have children.
Yes.
And watching a documentary, which is about a child abduction, child disappearance.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning. Even though the documentary itself isn't about necessarily the disappearance itself, but that's how it
But it's
starts,
not
right?
the right,
It's the
right,
root. It's the reason why this is happening.
right. So I watched this. I'll never forget it. On a flight, it's like I can't decide if this is a really good or a terrible flight movie because it's just so upsetting. But I watched it on a flight.
I cried at Moana on a plane, so I'm not really the person to ask about
Yeah,
what's good to
I make
watch on a
really
plane.
I make really bad decisions about that. I watched Coco for the first time on a plane, so locked
I
myself in the
watched it,
bathroom for like 30 minutes.
of course. I
So
watched Coco on a treadmill. I was like, I told you the story. I'm like, this is gonna be a fun movie, and then I'm like,
no,
what the
it's
fuck have I
not.
done?
It's not. It's not. So anyway, I watched this on a flight, and I feel like I remember being like, this is the best documentary I've ever seen. Probably because the story is just like so insane. But on top of that, that was about the time that like true crime was becoming popular. And so like production value of documentaries was kind of like amping up, right? Like documentaries used to be boring as hell. They were just really boring. It's History Channel, right? Sorry, not sorry. But now, right, like they have such great production value. And I just kind of felt like this was the first time that like I felt that watching one. And so this, I always wanted to be one of the first that I covered because it just is the one that sticks in my head as being like, wow, I want to watch more stories like this that are just told by the people who lived it. And I cannot wait to get your thoughts on what you think actually happened.
To
But
Nicholas?
yes, but so what's so crazy about this story is, as Linda said, like you're immediately introduced to Frédéric, but you don't actually learn his name until about an hour and 15 minutes
Yeah,
into the
that's
movie.
true. You're right. Just
So
in
you
your
literally
head,
have no
yeah.
idea. You have no idea who, because he's been going by Nicholas. So um, he is in Spain, and he is just someone who was never loved, didn't have a good family, and will stop at nothing to feel welcome. Clearly, in his head, it justifies his actions. He's a terrible human being. That's the beginning, the
He's a
middle, and the end of it.
sociopath, right? So I mean,
100%.
like considered a sociopath, right? I would think
100%.
that
100%.
just doesn't murder people. One would think.
Like, who knows? Maybe it could ever escalate to
Yeah,
that point. I hope it
yeah,
hasn't, because I tried to look
yeah.
up like where he's been since then. But anyway, yeah, it's just crazy. So it goes through the story. He starts in Spain. He is left alone in this um what is it? It's not an orphanage or just like a
Right?
kids hostel,
Yeah,
right?
like or like where they find like kids that they don't know
Like a
what to do
shelter.
with. Yeah,
Shelter. And he's left alone
and he's
after
23 at the time.
yeah, yeah, he's got like a 5 o'clock shadow. So,
And he's not even a child. Like that's what's like bonkers to me.
I know. Well, and I have a great point to that I feel like explains a lot of the documentary and like the people involved too, that I'll bring up later. But so he's in this shelter, and he's left alone for the night, just in the office. So he spends the night calling major cities around the world to be like, you guys got any missing kids? Because his plan is he's going to say that he is one so that he can get into a loving home, which like, you're like, oh, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard, which kind of makes you feel for him. And then you're like, no, this guy's a fucking horrible, awful human.
Yeah.
And he finds one in this case from Texas. This boy, who I believe was 12 or 13 at the time, goes missing. Literally no trace whatsoever. And they're like, okay, we've found Nicholas. Spain is calling the family. They're calling the US. They're calling the FBI. They're like, we have this kid. And people are like, no fucking way. And he doesn't have ID. He doesn't have anything. So they just kind of all go along with it. then, you get facts that he somehow gets the facts, which I just can't believe that this guy was like left in all this
In this
access
office.
so
Yeah.
long, right?
And also like the way he describes it, right? The
Right.
way he's like, I needed to put the way he like was talking about his mannerisms, I found was the most interesting part. Where he was like,
Yes.
the way I did this was I had to project helplessness,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
which I found, very interesting because basically you hear the story through his eyes and through the
Yes.
family's eyes, but mostly he's the narrator. He's the narrator of this,
Right.
pretty much, of the story. And I think the
Right.
family kind of Nicholas's family infuses the emotion into it, because when you
Right.
watch this man, he has zero emotion about
Zero.
everything.
Zero.
Um, he's just talking about it like he was like he's writing an essay about, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, how to
Yeah.
bake cake. Like, just, and I just, it's so practiced that
But it
I
also
think,
isn't. Like
yeah,
he
like
clearly just wings it.
yeah, but like he has like and this gets us back to
You-
like the interesting part of understanding the dynamics of a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
situation you're running into, right? I think he, for better or for worse, knew that his best bet to be loved, or
Yes.
to, fill this void in him, um, is to read the situation and go into like a missing person's,
Right.
kind of home. But the thing, and I'm gonna let you like continue, but because
Yeah. No worries.
you're taking us through the story, is with the twist, like how,
Yeah.
when the twist happens, you're like, but wait, is he really wanting to do that, or does he just want to cause
Right.
chaos?
Right. So I'm kind of walking through this step by step
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah,
if people haven't watched it, but like the hope is that everybody's watched it. But
yeah. Even if you haven't, it's okay.
yeah. Yeah. It's just such a wild story. So he gets faxed that picture and he's like, fuck it, I'm leaning in to this blonde hair, blue eyed American kid where he's got dark hair, a 5 o'clock shadow, dark eyes, and a French fucking accent. What? Anyway,
I
yeah,
think it's the desperation of like,
right,
family to be like, we'll grasp at anything.
right, right.
Um,
Also, so
yeah,
here's one of my big things. This case is 1996 is when Nicholas goes missing, right?
yeah,
And you kept hearing it from all these people. And like, for those of you who are younger, this is almost 30 years ago, and was a time where like you automatically just gave everybody the benefit of the doubt. And like the FBI agent who was like, no one on the planet would come up with this story of torture and all of the terrible things that he said that soldiers, were doing to them, which obviously was all a lie. But like, no one in their right mind would do this. And I feel like it's the same for the family in terms of like, who would lie about being our missing, who would go to the lengths of putting on getting tattooed to match. Like tattoos are
yeah.
huge. That's huge
Mm.
for identifying somebody. And he got someone to tattoo him because they put it in the missing persons report. And I don't say that judgingly. That was what was in it. And he went as far to do that. And so everyone's probably like, who the fuck would go that far to do this and why? So we lived in a world 30 years ago where we were like, clearly it's this kid because he's got the tattoos. Like he's clearly been through some trauma. So like, yeah. And then, and so the twist you get to, this is where I wanted to especially ask your thoughts on
Yeah.
what you think happened, which you don't need to have an answer, but you get to the twist where there is the theory that the family took this imposter in because they killed Nicholas. And I remember watching this documentary for the first time and being like, holy shit, like this is the bomb that's being dropped. And it's not even that he tells it so convincingly. He just says it with so much confidence that I was like, for a hot second, I'm like, oh my God, like maybe they, and then I'm like, no, I'm not listening to this fucking guy. Like, he's almost that good where you're like, oh, okay. And so I get your question where like, did he do it to hurt someone? Did he do it to just create chaos? I think he does it to just like obviously not take responsibility for his own fucking actions.
Yeah, and I think
Someone else.
yeah, and I think the concept here is, at least for me, when I like, saw this again, for me is like why why drag the family down even more?
Right.
So that for me, like I think Nicholas was probably picked up by
Yeah.
somebody and they've never found
Yeah.
his body. I mean, I think that's the more likely scenario. You obviously will never know, but
Also, unfortunately, a big thing in the mid 90s.
yeah,
Just saying.
exactly. And,
Stranger danger.
stranger, yeah, exactly. Stranger danger. And like he wanted a ride and he couldn't get one because his mom couldn't pick him up. And then his brother, Jason,
Yeah.
develops a cocaine habit. I'm assuming because he felt so guilty that he didn't wake his mom up. Um,
Right. They
and
lived in a small town. Like everybody knows everybody there. Like
yeah,
what? Like they lived in a small town.
yeah. And my
Like
guess is it's
you just
somebody,
don't suspect.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
somebody that did it. He's somewhere back in some, like his body is in a backyard somewhere,
I
that they've
know.
never thought of. Yeah, and that's the thing,
Horrible.
right? And that's the
Yeah.
thing, I think. And for me, Frederick doing this was more because, he says this story about wanting to be loved and all of that. And then he does that to like just, and then in the end, for me, it's about just trying to control a situation and just
Yeah.
wreaking chaos on everything. Because I'm assuming he could have called, you know, he could have, when he was calling the missing like people, he could have picked somebody that looked more like him. He could have, and he did this. He's done this after in France. I think he did that again. Like he did this again. After this case, because he was in jail for 6 years for like perjury and
Only
passport.
3. I thought he
Oh,
only went
you're
to for
right.
like
You're
3.
right. You're right. He only did it for 3.
Ridiculous.
And yeah, and I think, and for me, I think this is the example of how when you have very confident people that say things with authority, that you'll believe anything they say. Um, and it becomes very hard to build a connection with people that are like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Right.
and I think in the end, you can't build a connection with everybody, right? Like it's not needed. You
And
don't
that's
need,
okay.
yeah, and that's okay. You don't need that noise. You don't need that
Ain't
noise
nobody got
in your life.
ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
No one, no one. Um, but I think like him doing that, and the thing that like also like so the whole week like I watched it. I think it was like a couple days ago. His sister is like in the documentary, and
Nicholas's sister.
Nicholas's sister is talking
Yeah.
about, and her face has been with me the whole time, because you can't, like, the way she says things, like it's somebody who's haunted. Like you feel the haunt in
Yeah.
her voice, right? Like you don't like, and the mom like clearly is just like closed off. She's like, I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. It's, my fault. I couldn't protect my child. I couldn't protect 2 of my children. Um, and and then the other one is Bourdin dancing in the prison, which you like they finish
Um,
off. I don't know
Michael
why
Jackson.
those yeah, those two images are juxtaposed in my brain, um, of like people dancing on actual haunt and emotion, which is why to me, like I felt like
Yeah.
he does it just to create chaos. Maybe there is like a part of him to like want to be loved somewhere. But I think
Yeah.
it's just a sociopath to just
Yeah.
create chaos.
It's I think it's more wanting to be the center of attention, less so like
Yeah.
which is a different way of saying you want to be loved, right? Like
Yeah.
you can be loved and not be the center of attention. He clearly just wants to be the center of attention because he's a
Yeah.
fucking sociopath.
Sociopath.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the story is just bananas. And this is probably the second or third time I've watched it, but it's been a very long time since I'd seen it. So the rewatch was good because I I think another stark moment is when the FBI agent is reading all of the different charges. Like once they start looking him up from all the different places all over Europe that he's done this. And then, right, he goes to prison for 3 years and then immediately does it again in France with the same MO.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely bananas.
And you know, you can't sort of pull that stuff off anymore, right? There's DNA. There's
Yeah.
DNA, there's like the globalization of media. Now like you have it like around. And I think to your point, it's
Yep.
it's kind of where true crime really started getting really, really big, right? This kind of amateur people of going, wait, some other people have ideas around this, and let's crowdsource some information. So that's
Yeah.
I think it's more for me also why this, like you said, I think you totally mentioned it at the beginning. It's like emblematic of the time because it
Yeah.
really started becoming extremely big. Like looking at these cases and looking at people that have the time and the energy perhaps to look into this type of stuff more.
Because I think Serial was 2012.
Yeah,
Sorry, that was 2013 or 2014, I think.
yeah,
But
something like that.
still,
I mean,
like
that's still
that's,
going on today, right? They just
oh yeah, like
reinstated they just reinstated the conviction.
they sure did. They sure did. And like most of the podcasts I listen to, honestly, are true crime. So even though like, what we're doing is documentaries, not all of them will be true crime. There will certainly be some on there. But yeah, I just like it's
First
kind
true
of like when
crime
it
have been
started
very true
exploding.
crime-ish.
Yeah, but Icarus is like
I feel like
just
it's like very suspense.
amazing.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's still
Oh
like it's
yeah.
just very like, you know,
Oh, you should see the list coming up, guys.
uh,
Like it's certainly on there, but I
when we
promise
started
not all
when
of
we
them are.
when we started doing this, Elaine sent me a list of I'm like I haven't seen most of these. And I'm probably not going to see some of them because I probably wouldn't be able to handle them. Um, but yeah,
a
it's
lot of times a lot of times Linda needs to ask me like, is this flagged? Is this cleared? Is it
yeah.
flagged? It's
So
like,
just so everybody knows, this is one of my favorite stories about me and my husband. I when I watch movies, I get really invested and I just cry. Like if so I only watch Disney movies, comedy movies, and I cry at those. So like this is kind of the level of emotional thing. And so at first when we started dating, my husband was like, "Well, why do you only watch like these silly movies? Why don't we watch like, something serious?" And I'm like, "All right, you want to watch something serious? Okay." So he decides that we need to go watch In the Land of Blood and Honey, which is Angelina Jolie's movie. Yeah, yeah. Angelina Jolie's movie about um the Bosnia Herzegovina war. And the movie starts 5 minutes sobbing. I'm sobbing the entire movie. The entire movie. I have nightmares for weeks. And my husband's like, never again. We are never again. No, 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 no. I got it.
I've
Comedies and Disney. We got it. Noted.
If I don't think you've watched Arrested Development, correct?
I have.
Oh, God, why don't we quote that one more often? Because I'm about to throw in, I've made a huge mistake.
Arrested Development. My favorite. I swear, it's a magic show.
Illusions, Michael. Illusions.
The mere memory of that scene makes me already like cry because it's so fun. I mean, Will Arnett is just genius. Genius.
Everyone on that show.
Everyone on that show, but still, like, I don't like. Yes, Arrested Development. I haven't watched it enough to quote it. I know, like, good for her, and like, good. I may have committed light treason.
It's so good. It's so good.
The money's on the banana.
There's always
money in the banana.
There's always money in the banana stand. Always.
Oh, that's so. They don't make them like that anymore. Jeez.
No. Oh, God, no, they don't. I'm trying to think then for our next documentary. Because I have one in mind that is
getting that look,
music.
Guys. Getting that look.
I know. Oh, it's not true crime.
Okay.
It's not.
Yes,
I promise.
We gotta.
Music.
Yes. Which one are we gonna do? We watch?
Huh?
Did we watch? You watched the Jean Baptiste one, right? Was it American Symphony? Is that what it's called?
Oh my God! Yes.
That was so good. Goosebumps every time I think about that one.
You want to talk about sobbing, like uncontrollably for a long time.
Anyway, so music.
Yes, fantastic. Yeah. So, and I know it's gonna, the title invokes your girl, but it is not about your girl. It's called Searching for Sugar Man.
Oh no, I know. I've heard about this one.
Oh no, it's fantastic.
No, wait,
it's fantastic.
Is it, oh no, I mixed it up with that guy where they like killed people. You said it wasn't true crime. Isn't that what Candyman? Isn't that Searching for Candyman?
Candyman, I can't watch that shit. That's a horror movie. I'll watch true crime all day, all night. You give me one scary movie, I can't do it.
Oh no, I can't do scary movies either. But wasn't there this documentary about these girls that like killed like some
Slender Man.
All right, there you go. Okay, but this one's Searching for Candyman.
Searching for Sugar Man.
Sorry. It's too many.
Just think of your girl Nina, Sugar Man.
Yes, got it.
I guess that's Sinner Man. Shit, yeah. We're all over the place.
You know what?
Never mind.
It's fine. It's late.
I said anything.
It's late, so
Sugar, I said anything.
The rewind. I know some people don't understand the rewind thing, but rewind.
We can't figure out sound effects yet. Not yet.
It's fine. We're just gonna drink now. It's fine.
Yes. Don't cut that out either. It's too good.
No. Fuck no.
It's too good. Anyway, this one is incredible. I don't want to give away too much.
Okay.
But it is a music documentary. It is about an artist who I get like real Bob Dylan vibes, but like a way better voice, like just a true poet who became huge in South Africa, especially like during the time of apartheid as like the movement is starting.
I remember you talking about this.
I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. And it is such a beautiful story.
Cannot wait.
That I think that should, like, you might cry, but it'll probably be happy tears.
Yeah,
So
you know
I'm
what?
going to throw that one out there, unless there's one
Oh,
you're interested in.
no, I think that one is great. I just want to see, just to tell people where
Oh,
it's
yes.
streaming. So it looks like you can, it's on YouTube, it's on Apple TV. You can watch it on YouTube. Let's see. Yeah, so it's a little bit
You,
of everywhere. So you can definitely, and it's on Netflix as well, it seems.
good. You can also watch it on United Flights, which is how I rewatched it.
Got it. Yeah, that too. And I think I'm on a United flight in a couple of days, so
There you go.
next week or so.
It's
Um,
it's excellent. I'm a big fan. I guess this one also released in 2012, so we're sticking to a
2012.
good time for documentaries. It won an Oscar. It's got a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I
I
know.
mean,
So
I love it.
whenever Elaine says a documentary is good, it's good.
I appreciate that.
What was happening in 2012? Like what were we doing? Oh,
Oh,
yeah. It
shit.
was right after 9/11, like the year after
No,
9/11. So like the world was
no.
just,
11 years after 9/11.
oh God, 2001, Jesus Christ. And
Sorry, that's too good.
I'm not cutting that out either.
Yeah, well,
Like once you get into like your 40s, it's like
the brain does some funny shit.
it all starts blending together and you're like, fuck. No, so what was happening in 2012?
So we're headed into the reelection of President Obama,
Right.
2012.
Yes.
Um,
So yeah, it was
I
like
felt like
the binders,
uh,
the binders full of women.
I gotta say, the Mitt Romney documentary also very good.
So good. I've seen that one.
Like made
So good.
him not so robotic.
Yeah.
Just like you're like, oh, he was a real man.
Yeah, he was, and he like seems
He's a
nice
sweet little
and
man.
yeah,
I
sweet little
know.
guy. Like
I
just
know. That was a good
fucking
one.
yeah, I like that one too.
I'm literally Googling what happened in 2012 because, like, I don't
What did
know.
like feels like it's so long ago.
It was so long ago.
Oh, the movie 2012 came out.
Oh God, Pasta Concordia shipwreck. You love shipwrecks. The
Oh
Italian shipwreck
yes, that
happened.
one. The word like, ooh yeah.
That was like
Oh,
big for a long time.
Trayvon Martin was shooting in 2016.
Holy shit!
Wow.
What?
No,
That was 2012.
that
Yeah,
was 2012 in February. This is obviously
the London,
US.
the London Olympics. So the Spice Girls reunion.
Yeah.
That was good. That was a good
Yeah.
one.
Hurricane Isaac.
Oh,
Ooh,
times were.
the attack in Benghazi. Damn.
Yeah. Xi Jinping becomes president. Oh my God. This
Oh,
is simpler times.
simply the fiscal cliff. Oh, Sandy Hook was in 2012.
Oh God, we're not gonna go there.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there, but that was like the last
Yeah,
thing
that was because it was December.
yeah.
That's I grew up playing soccer on those fields. I know it. I know it well. Yeah. Crazy.
Damn.
We're not gonna watch documentaries about that, by the way.
No,
Like
thank you.
nothing and nothing. No, that's like
No, that's the line.
that's the big
That's the
time.
line.
None of
That's the
that.
line.
None of that.
And I think we crossed that line with this disappearance thing.
Yeah.
No, like watching it again, I was like,
Again, I know, but it was more like it's more just about like the character that is the imposter, right? Like it's
yeah,
about Frédéric, and it's like
and
it's
I
just
think
so
it's
fascinating the
and I think that
psychology behind a man like that.
and of course it's also like interesting the psychology of how to use lies for your own gain, which I think
Yeah,
again, and that was my earlier point about how interesting people tend to be met with a lot of suspicion
yeah,
because it seems like they have a word for everything. They have like a fact for everything. And that really puts people off, right? It puts people off to go, how can you be thinking about these things? How can you, and the concept is, and it goes back to our original episode, how intellectual curiosity isn't actually everywhere. It's very rare. And this is why kind of creating kind of a pocket, or like, it's kind of like a file system of things you're really interested in,
Yeah.
to like, have it. And then it creates more connection that kind of dispels the concept that you yourself might be an imposter, right? So I think there's a lot to be said for very like interesting people that have something to say, people that really think through things, people that are interested in different things. And I think in the end, like, the line, right? When you're talking to somebody, like, you're not going to start lying about things. You're not going to start making up things about yourself because you don't need to, right?
We don't recommend that.
Yes, that's definitely not recommended. And I think it's to be interesting, I think, is also to be very self-aware, because
Yeah.
I think the characters here, I think that the people here in this documentary have a lot of undealt with issues, and then you have kind of the consequences of that kind of in front of you. Because something happened, a disappearance happened, and then there's a bunch of consequences that happen. um, and
Yeah,
and
literally
somebody takes
none
advantage
of
of it.
us, I don't think any one of us can pretend that we would know what we would do in that situation. I don't think any of us
No.
could look at that family and be like, how could they not know? I know I thought that the first time I watched it. And then I'm like, again, that giving them, the guy went and got the tattoos. He dyed his hair.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us really know what we would do in that situation.
Mhm.
It's really easy to watch that and be like, come on.
Yeah.
But,
When you're
you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. And I think the empathy of that, of going,
Yeah.
you don't know what would happen, if you're in that kind of dark place of not knowing and just wanting to know what happened to a family member that's disappeared.
Yeah.
I think that's also, a real key here in this type of, like, when you watch this, it's about empathizing, and it's about understanding that there are, maybe different sides to a story and different feelings to a story that you thankfully don't have to go through.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think you did a little research on where Frédéric is now, right?
Yeah. I tried to look some of that up. And by the way, I think you were right. I think he was initially sentenced 3 years and they made him serve double that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I've seen like six, so like I was okay.
No. So you were right. I know he got married and I thought like had a kid or several kids.
5. And then his wife left him. He posted on Facebook that his wife left him for another man.
He's the worst. And I think he got in trouble again for
Did he?
impersonating.
That's great.
But like, so, and I don't want this guy to like get the fame and the spotlight because that's clearly what he wants. And like, yes, we kind of give into that watching this documentary, but like, I also know if you're charged for something like that in the United States, typically, I think it's state by state, but in most states, like, I don't think he was paid for that movie because 99% of the time it is illegal for you to make money off of a crime that you committed, if you were found guilty,
Which,
which he was.
yeah.
So, he'd either have to donate it or the money would go to the family or whatever. So, I don't want to give him praise or really like, yeah, it's interesting to know where he is, but like he's probably still out there doing the same shit to other people. And so
Yeah.
fuck him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I think this is like, the cautionary tale of really not trusting your gut, because I don't think any of the members, like, of the family really had a gut to think about. But you know, the thing actually, and on this note, the FBI agent, like the lady, I think I don't know if she's the FBI, where they were like the cop and the FBI agent were like sure that the family killed Nicholas and buried him. And I'm like, really, guys?
Yeah, the private investigator. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the slime ball of that, like I, to a certain degree, was even more put off by them
Yeah.
because they were in positions of power and they're
Yeah.
sitting there in this with absolutely zero evidence,
Zero.
zero going, I believe Jason. I'm like, what? Like you don't have any evidence, like not
Nope.
a shred of evidence,
Nope.
but you
Nope.
decided to go on this documentary that was widely like shown and assure everybody that was watching that, you know, the family killed them. And I'm
And
like,
here we are 12 years later with nary a piece of evidence to back that up to.
still a cold
So,
case. And I think
yeah,
and they just say, oh, it's because Jason died. And I'm like, well, you would find a body. Like Jason was what? How old was Jason? Like
I don't think he was that much older.
he wasn't that much older. Like anyway,
Yeah.
but there you have it.
Wild.
There you have it. That is our doc for this week, or for this episode mostly. Which, you know, again, I think very interesting. And we, you know, already have our doc for next week, for next time.
Yeah.
And I think we are going to be following now. We're going to go back to our, you know, kind of scheduled programming of last time we talked about how we enter a conversation. And this time, next time, we're going to talk about how we exit. So I think knowing how to go in and exit are always very important moments because sometimes people just say wild things they should not say out loud, and you just gotta exude. It's kind of how we're going to kind of talk about that. But as
Yeah.
always, Elaine, thank you so much for your documentary prowess and
Thanks,
your
Linda.
suggestions. And as always, cheers to everybody who's hopefully drinking during this. Cheers.
Cheers.
And we will see you next time on Interesting as Fuck.
Yay.
Yay.